The Blue Jackets played real-life ice hockey last night and yesterday afternoon for the first time in a million years, or 6 months, depending on how you look at it. And let's talk about it. Let's talk about who we liked, who we didn't like, and our 3 stars of the game. Since there was 2 games, 3 stars of the night. Coming up today on Locked on Blue Jackets.
Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jacket. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to bring you news, stories, and finally, for the first time since April, game recaps. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. The Blue Jackets played 2 games yesterday. They played one against Pittsburgh, and then they played a second game against Pittsburgh. 2 games against Pittsburgh is my point here. One there, one in Columbus, and the Blue Jackets came away with 3 points of a possible 4. I know the points are made up and the rules don't matter in the preseason, but I think there's a lot of good to talk about in both of these games. So let's start off with the first game, the afternoon game in Pittsburgh. That was a very rookie prospect heavy roster, a lot of lines and combinations that I don't think we'll see, apart from maybe some defensemen. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The Blue Jackets lost 3-2 in overtime after leading 2-1 for the majority of the second half. They allowed the tying goal with like 54 seconds left because that is how the Blue Jacket, James Neal opened the scoring, obviously. And if you had forgotten that James Neal existed, then congratulations, me too. Here's the fun thing, though, is it was a power play goal. James Neal scored, assisted by Jack Roslovic. Just a weird goal, honestly. A very Casey DeSmith goal to give up, frankly. John Lizotte of the Penguins scored, and then Nick Blankenburg scored his first. Assists from Marchenko and Victor Rask to make it 2-1. Again, another power play goal. And then, unfortunately, the Penguins scored in the third period to make it 2-2 with, like I said, like 54 seconds left. And then Jason Zucker scored with 3 minutes of overtime left to take the victory 3-2. But I think there's a lot of positives that we can take from this game. Number one, the power play has learned how to score. They have like 4 power play goals in these 2 games. We're going to talk about the second game in a minute, but 2 goals, both power play goals. Obviously scored by James Neal, who I do not expect to be on the Blue Jackets roster, let alone on the power play, but I think promising. The systems are clearly working, and they scored these goals against an NHL goalie as well. So, it's not like they came in and scored a bunch of goals on a guy that is probably going to be in the AHL or even the ECHL or even back to juniors this season. Casey DeSmith will be with the Penguins this season, provided he manages to stay healthy. And again, I think that's a really good sign. But the biggest thing for me is, the first of my 3 stars of yesterday's games, Nick Blankenburg is. And I think Jeff Svoboda, Jackets Insider, said it best on Twitter. The Blue Jackets have a bunch of right defensemen already in Boquist, Peak, and Gabranson. Nick Blankenburg looks like a legit option that I think is going to make things very difficult when the Blue Jackets have to decide who their top 6 defensemen are going to be. I thought he had a phenomenal game. Scored a goal. He scored a bunch in scrimmages, in training camp as well. And I think we're going to see, if he manages to get into some games, I think we're going to see a lot of Nick Blankenburg. And I think that's definitely a good thing. He impressed me all year at college. Obviously, watching a lot of Kent Johnson games means that you watched a lot of Nick Blankenburg games, and he just always impressed me. And when he signed in Columbus, we talked about it, super excited. I thought he did really well with his, I think, 8 or 9 games that he played at the end of last season. And I have kind of been umming and ahhing over whether or not he should be in Cleveland to start the season or with Columbus, but everything I'm seeing from training camp, from this preseason, and obviously it's one game, so we shouldn't draw too many like sweeping conclusions. But what else is preseason for? Honestly, he should be on this roster. Is he young and small and inexperienced? Yes. Is he good and offensively gifted and a boon to this team? Yes. And I don't want, and this is the thing that I keep going back to, I don't want him to be that seventh defenseman because I don't think that helps him, and I don't think that helps the team to have him sitting in the press box waiting for someone to get hurt. So if it has to be that he goes down to Cleveland and just ruins lives down there, like, so be it. But I really do genuinely think that Nick Blankenburg should be on this opening night roster. So that was my main takeaway from this first game. Not a lot of guys that are going to be on the opening night roster. I don't think it was mostly Jack Roslovic and a bunch of children. Kirill Marchenko was there. Something else that I want to talk about before we move on to the second game is David Jiricek and Denton Mateychuk were paired up again, and again, like, they're just fun to watch together. And it feels very much like you're kind of seeing the Blue Jackets in 2 to 3 years is going to be Mateychuk and Jiricek, either the second pairing, maybe even the first pairing, depending on how Werenski ages, etc. But, like, man, they just look fun together. It is fun to watch those guys play hockey. And so, yeah, like I said, not a lot of guys on the roster that are going to be on the NHL roster, frankly, but definitely some good signs, I think, in power play in Nick Blankenburg and in Jiricek and Mateychuk just being fun to watch. So in a minute, we're going to talk about the second game, which I have a lot more to say about the second game than the first one because there's a lot more actual NHL guys on there, and my new raison d'etre, shall we say, that new look top line, which might not be the top line in the regular season, but is a ton of fun right now. So we're going to talk about that. But first, I've got to tell you about one of our sponsors, and I use this product literally every day, and that is AG1. And I started taking this because I didn't have time to really think about what I wanted to do to make my gut health better, to improve my immune system. And I stumbled across AG1, and I'm super happy that I did because it doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It has this kind of like sweet tropical taste that's really nice, and I just feel so much better now that I've started taking this. And you can do it too. So what is this stuff? Well, it is 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food-sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens, and they're going to help you start your day right. It's a special blend of ingredients that supports gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, aging, all of the things that you need to start your day off right. AG1 has it and provides it. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, you can have AG1, so it is lifestyle-friendly, and it is just one scoop in a cup of water, so it's super, super easy. You don't need to take a million pills and vitamins and weight loss shakes and workout stuff. You can just do AG1. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. One scoop in a cup of water every day. That is it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Once again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. So the second game had a lot more going on than the first game, which is to say that the Blue Jackets scored a lot more goals and the Blue Jackets won, and also there were a lot more, like I said, NHL regulars playing in this game. It felt more like a lineup that you could see. There was still, the bottom six, and the defense was kind of a bit wonky, but the Blue Jackets won 5-1. And again, just a bunch of guys you want to see scoring and also guys that you love to see scoring. So Justin Danforth opened the scoring just as we all suspected, the little guy. No, not that little guy. The other little guy, Justin Danforth, who I'm a big fan of. And I think he's pushing hard to keep his spot on the roster that he earned last season. The Patrick Laine, Johnny Gaudreau connection is at 1. They had to go via Andrew Peak, but Patrick Laine scored, makes it 2-0. Jacob Voracek scored, which I didn't think was allowed. Voracek, by the way, had a 3-point night. Johnny Gaudreau also had a 3-point night. He had 3 assists, which, I mean, that's what you get Johnny Gaudreau for. And like, I think I tweeted this on the podcast Twitter. He's just so much fun to watch. Like, in a way that Patrick Laine is exciting to watch and Zach Werenski is exciting to watch, Johnny Gaudreau is exciting to watch. And I hope you can hear the capital letters at the beginning of each of those words. Like, every time he had the puck, I was just kind of watching, like, with my hands in my chin, like, oh my God, do that again. Like, just so cool, so fun. And rewarded with 3 assists. So, Johnny Gaudreau coming as advertised. My hope for a Patrick Laine 40 to 50 goal season is still on. And he fits right in. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about for my second star of these 3 games, which is kind of cheating because it's not really a person in as much as it is a line. The conversation all off season or since free agency has been, well, who's going to center Johnny Gaudreau and Patrick Laine? And I have kind of been falling on the side of Boone Jenner. I don't think Jack Roslovic has the face-offs, and I don't think Cole Sillinger should be the other guy on a line. I think Cole Sillinger should have his own line. However, watching Kent Johnson between those 2 guys, and I think this might be a case of, hey, let's just try him there and see how it works. Because like I said in yesterday's episode, I believe, they've had a bunch of guys trying out that spot in training camp. They've had Boone Jenner there. They've had Jack Roslovic there. Cole Sillinger's out with an injury at the minute, so he hasn't been there, but they tried Victor Rask there, which again feels like, hey, let's just throw this guy in. Why not? Kent Johnson played there for a couple of practices and then in this preseason game. And I just think, man, what if we just have this as a line from now on? I think it worked really, really well. You can see all 3 guys are building chemistry. Is Kent Johnson big enough and strong enough to be an NHL center right now? Like, maybe not. But as I've been saying this whole time, I don't think you need a Patrice Bergeron to play between those 2 guys. I really don't. I think Kent Johnson is good enough to hold his own on that line. But I think it might be the perfect situation for him to kind of look at what he's doing and to develop between 2 players as good as Gaudreau and Laine. Like, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for his development. I think if he doesn't have to carry a line by himself and can kind of learn how to play center with, the offensive force of Patrick Laine and the transitional abilities of Johnny Gaudreau, like, I think this could low-key be a really, really good line. I also would like to I can take no credit for this because a friend coined it first, but I would like to officially move to call this line the small, medium, and large line because Johnny Gaudreau is small, Kent Johnson is medium, and Patrick Laine is large. So that's what I'm calling it. I'm calling it the small, medium, and large line, and you can't stop me. And in a minute, we are going to talk about my third star of yesterday's games, and I don't think anyone will be surprised when I announce who it is. So before we get to that, I do want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day. I know I'm recording at like 4:30 Eastern in the afternoon, but it's fine. Maybe this is your first listen of the day. If it's not, I still appreciate you. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and also over on YouTube. So if you haven't decided to watch this episode yet, then hey, why don't you head over to YouTube because you can now watch instead of just listening to me talk about Johnny Gaudreau for the next 150 episodes plus. So, my third star. I don't think anyone is going to be surprised by this. My third star for these games is goaltending. I thought Elvis looked like Elvis. He played 2 periods in the 5-1 win, and then Jet Greaves played the other period, and I thought he again played pretty darn well. I like Jet Greaves a lot. I thought he looked really good at Traverse City. I thought he looked really good last season. I'm excited for him to continue to kind of develop and come into his own and become maybe a potential Blue Jackets goalie in the future. I really do think that's where he is. But I also want to give props to Pavel Chayan, who played half the game in Pittsburgh, and also Nolan Lalonde, who I believe was with the Pittsburgh organization last season. So he is fresh off of a season with the Erie Otters, I believe. I thought both those guys played really well. I thought Pavel Chayan played really well in Traverse City as well. And again, it's very much this is what preseason is for. It's getting to see these guys that maybe wouldn't get NHL action any other time, but they get it right now, and it's fun. But I think for me, the important thing is I was watching specifically Merzlikins, honestly, and he looks like his old self. I know it's literally 40 minutes. Goalies can have good games, goalies can have bad games, but it looks like a real positive to me. How he looked in the net, I think he didn't say anything. I suspect he was dealing with an injury at the end of last season, and just played through it. But he looks sharp. He looks good. He's doing the thing that he does, where he just skates out to the blue line to take the puck away from a Penguin. Mildly stressful for me. Exciting for everyone who's not a goalie, I'm sure. But that's my third star is goaltending, because I thought all 4 goalies played well, and super optimistic about how Elvis looked. I'm hoping to get a look at Korpisalo in the next couple of games and see how he's doing. Obviously, he's just coming off major hip surgery. Same with Daniil Tarasov. Hopefully, those 2 guys will get into a game at some point. I mean, you have to think that they will. But that's kind of all I've got for you today. The Blue Jackets don't play for a couple of days, and then they have a game against Buffalo. So I'm expecting cuts to be made. Usually PTO guys from juniors will be sent back to juniors, or there might be a couple of guys sent back to Cleveland. I'm not expecting any major moves from training camp in the next couple of days, but that's what we'll kind of check in tomorrow with how training camp is going. We'll take a look at who's still there. Maybe we'll have some more fun speculations about who should be in that center position. Maybe they'll try someone else. Maybe Boonjana will be scrimmaging. He's been practicing, but not scrimmaging. So maybe we'll see him take a spin in between line 8 and Gaudreau. And so I think that's kind of what we're going to talk about tomorrow. The podcast is going to be dropping about the same time tomorrow, I think, just because of my work schedule. I don't have time to get up in the morning and record before I go to work. So I'll record when I get home, which is why it's dark in my studio, my office here. So like I said, that's all I've got for you. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find this podcast at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockdownbluejackets@gmail.com. It would be great to do a mailbag at some point. So if you have questions for that, then let's send them in, and I will get to those. Maybe we'll do a mailbag on Friday. Who knows? But if you have questions, then feel free to send them to that email address, or at me on Twitter, or comment on this YouTube video. Thank you once again for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, and also over on YouTube. And like I said, thank you for listening. I appreciate you. We have gained a bunch of subscribers since the last time I recorded, and that's super exciting. So we are getting ever closer to the 250 subscribers that I'm aiming for the season opener on, I believe, October 8th, but I could be wrong about that. So if you haven't subscribed, then feel free to hit that subscribe button. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.